All right, I'll give it a try.
Yeah, let's go. Take it away, man. Right, that's great, Howard. So, like a tune like Djangology, it's often the first tune people kind of learn in this genre, Gypsy Jazz. But actually, there's a lot of changes going on
There's
there.
a lot going on there, yeah.
And to actually get through those changes is definitely a challenge. Why don't you just kind of walk us through maybe some ideas that
Well, one of the things I look for in a tune like this, I always look for you can always run up and down the arpeggios of each chord, But what I look for is like the important notes that are changing from chord to chord. The big difference between the first chord and the second chord is that.
Yeah.
And I always look at it as like kind of an anchor point or a way to build things around.
Yeah, right.
I look for like a line in between those chord changes.
Right. Exactly.
That's one.
Yeah.
Usually one or two important lines that usually come across the thirds of the chords.
Yeah.
The thirds and the seventh.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's nice. Yeah.
You can, if you have that as a foundation first, you can do all the ornamentation you want.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, right. So guide you through.
But I just kind of look for that and able to know what it sounds like and know where it is.
Yeah.
Otherwise, if you're trying to think of arpeggios over each chord, you find up.
Yeah, and then so you got that first bit, and then you've got that 2/5 into G.
Yeah.
So then you kind of almost hum and dry kind of thing.
Yeah,
so and what I like about when you're playing is you kind of interspersing nice chords with the melody often. So you play a bit of melody, then you kind of do a nice chord behind it.
Yeah.
This kind of thing.
Yeah.
Actually, I've got to say this is something I always think about Howard, but these fingers, I'm convinced that they've got actually. There you go. See, look. I'm convinced that they have independent brains.
Well,
can you introduce us to them?
Well, there's Goofy and Dumpy and Dixon and Blitzen. No, I had one of my first teachers after I was self-taught for a little while on the guitar. I went to a guy in Los Angeles. I'll mention his name just because he's an important guy to know about. A guy named Jimmy Weibel. I'd actually had a friend of mine call up Barney Kessel on my behalf to try to get me lessons. And Barney was starting to travel that much. He wasn't taking any students, but he said, "Oh, you should go see my friend Jimmy Weibel." And Jimmy was a great player, first of all, but he had me doing things very early that really developed a lot of independence between the fingers.
Yeah.
I mean, he was also writing these little contrapuntal etudes at that point for finger style things, so it would force your fingers to do strange things like, I mean, I still can't play him, but I can try to.
Yeah.
And he would just having you take a thing like a simple C chord and be aware of every voice in there,
Yeah.
Know where the fifth is, know where the seventh is, and be able to move around and stuff.
Yeah.
So that kind of got me in the habit of being able to move the fingers independently and not always be locked in.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's really impressive. Yeah.
So that's one of the things that I try to do. And the other, you mentioned the thing about interspersing chords between the melodies. This is maybe not entirely applicable to the Gypsy Jazz styles, but I think it's an important thing to do. I tend to always try to bring out the melody on the top strings when I'm playing, whether it's just melody notes or improvising. Make that stand out first, and I add the chords afterwards beforehand. And a lot of times what I'm using is it's a good idea for a while just to pretend your guitar has two strings, the third and fourth strings.
Okay.
Pretend all you can afford is two strings. You have a two-string ukulele, and you have to make as much music with that as possible. For rhythm playing, it's actually very easy. It's not quite your fuller chords, but it gives you the basic harmonies you can find. It's almost what a lot of people think of as the Freddy Green style playing.
Yeah, that's right.
But it usually connects to a bass note on the fourth or fifth string.
Right. Yeah.
Add things on top of that if you want. But that's like just the center. That's the foundation.
Yeah. That's.
And if you can make those two notes sound good, even if go ahead and play the melody for a minute for me. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Naturally, it's going to sound better if you have the bass notes. So if you have a bass player, he's playing them anyway. Or you can flesh it out. But if you can make that sound good, then if you're used to grabbing those notes easily, you can throw in little punctuations in your melodies.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great.
It's almost like a piano player.
That is the comp in hand,
it's like
right?
a couple of fingers here.
Yeah, totally. Just with those, like the crooks on the two strings there.
Yeah, you can get a lot out of that. Occasionally you use something different, but it's a good foundation. It's a good place to start.
That's the real jazz way, isn't it?
Yeah.
So you're playing a line and backing up with That sounds really groovy.
And then you can find those little counter lines like I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Anyhow, it's just a good idea to keep in the back of your head. Every once in a while, just mess around with just those two strings. And by focusing on those, you're not worrying about all the other notes.
Yeah.
You can hear what they sound like and be able to find little voicings. Even just little 4/3 resolutions.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, like for the T for 2 that we did. Like.
Exactly. That's exactly.
That kind of thing.
Exactly.
And it's a great place to start, right? It's kind of like the core of the harmony, really. So yeah, that's really cool too.
From that T for 2 thing, instead of the 7th to the 3rd, try the night.
Oh yeah, that's nice.
So once you focus on there, you can find a lot of other interesting possibilities.
Yeah.
You can throw in if you want.
Yeah, that's right. And can I ask you about like when you practice, or when you were a kid when you practiced, or would you practice like very strict kind of way, or were you listening to records, or how?
A little bit of everything.
Yeah, a little
you
bit
know,
of everything,
we love to just sit and listen to records and kind of feel the vibe and mess with them and pick up licks and stuff. One of my other teachers that was a great influence on me, though, was Howard Roberts. Was a great player, first of all, and he had a lot of very specific ideas about learning and teaching. And one of the things he emphasized, especially when you're doing like just technical stuff, don't sit there and like just play arpeggios and scales for hours and stuff. Just do it for 15 minutes.
Okay.
Do it in controlled time periods for that physical stuff or for that intellectual stuff.
Yeah.
Just sit there and work on it for 15 minutes and really get it down, make the most of that time, and then stop, give yourself a break and let it settle in.
Yeah.
You know, he had a whole lot more elaboration on that idea, but just the idea of just focusing on something for a short period of time, and you'll get it done faster that way.
Yeah.
And it'll sink into your system faster too, rather than just kind of blindly going.
Right. Yeah, right.
You know.
Yeah.
Just take one idea, work on it for a very short amount of time, and then stop and give yourself a break.
Yeah, that's right. That's a good
tip.
tip.
So that's when I was really into that. I did do that for a while. When I was trying to get like some of the basic foundations down, I would sit and set my timer for 10 minutes or 15 minutes.
Yeah. Okay.
Stop and.
Yeah.
And then go off and then. But one of the more important thing to me, though, the most important thing though, is to learn tunes and build up a repertoire.
Yeah, and that's what you really. That's what I'm so impressed by. You really know a lot of tunes.
Well, I've played with a lot of different people. Being a guitar player, you tend to be a sideman. Yeah. And I've learned a lot of different people's repertoires, and also it helps your employability too.
Yeah. Right. Exactly.
But it's really important to know those tunes so well, know the melody so well that you can play it and make the melody sound good by itself.
Yeah.
Without someone playing rhythm behind you or without a whole chord arrangement.
So Yeah. That'll sound more convincing than trying to put too much behind it. Yeah.
Or really knowing that song so well you can make it sing out and sound good just by itself.
Yeah, that's right. Just the noble melody without any real frills. And you're tapping your foot there and you're in time.
Mm-hmm.
And, it's great. And we talked about. I said about trust. It's like when I'm playing with Howard, it's like certain people you can just kind of play with and not think too much.
Exactly.
You can literally go with the flow, and like when you don't have to always play rhythm and stuff like that.
Right.
You can just both play lead and lines and stuff like that. It's great. Well, Howard's definitely there's a lot of great stuff going on there, and it's great. Thanks for sharing some of your
My
tips
pleasure.
and tricks there. That's brilliant. Howard Alden.